Do you think you truly understand the world around you? Think again, because the 10 things you've believed your whole life are about to be completely debunked by science. From sugar making kids hyperactive, to the 3-second memory of goldfish, and even the myth that swallowed gum stays in your stomach for 10 years. These are just long-lived rumors, and the truth behind them will surprise you, maybe even make you laugh out loud. Ready? Let's dive in. Number 10. The truth about the sugar high. Many parents believe that giving their kids candy, desserts, or sugary drinks instantly turns them into little tornadoes, running around nonstop, laughing and yelling. But science tells a very different story. Researchers conducted a double-blind study, one of the most reliable methods in medical research. One group of kids got real sugar, while another group got a sugar substitute that looked and tasted exactly the same. Neither the kids nor their parents knew which they had. The result? No significant difference in activity levels between the two groups. But here's the interesting part. When parents thought their kids had eaten sugar, they started watching them more closely and interpreting any movement as hyperactive, even though the behavior was the same as the no-sugar group. This is a classic example of the expectancy effect, where the observer's belief directly influences how they interpret behavior. In reality, the environment plays a much bigger role. At a birthday party, kids are already excited to see friends, play games, get presents, and stay up later than usual. A sugar-free birthday cake would likely create the same energy level. Studies from the New England Journal of Medicine and Very Well Mind both show no direct link between sugar intake and hyperactivity in children. So the next time you see a child bursting with energy after candy, remember, it might just be joy and the situation, not the sugar. And speaking of things we think are true, let's talk about one of the most famous brain myths in history. Number 9. The we only use 10% of our brains. Myth. You've probably heard this hundreds of times. Humans only use 10% of their brain's potential. It sounds inspiring, like we're sitting on a hidden treasure of untapped genius. But science says this is one of the biggest myths about the brain. It's as absurd as saying, fish only swim in 10% of the ocean. The human brain works non-stop, and almost all regions are active for various functions, even when you think you're doing nothing. Using advanced tools like functional MRI, fMRI, and EEG, scientists have observed the brain in real time. Even during sleep, it's busy, controlling breathing and heart rate, maintaining balance in the body, processing memories, and even cleaning waste products to keep neurons healthy. Although it makes up only about 2% of body weight, the brain. Number 8. The penny from a skyscraper could kill you. Myth. You've probably heard the tale. If you drop a penny from the top of the Empire State Building, it could pierce someone's skull. Sounds like a Hollywood scene, but physics says it's impossible here on Earth. When a penny falls, gravity pulls it downward, making it pick up speed, until air resistance kicks in. Air isn't empty. It's full of molecules that slow the penny down and make it tumble. After falling about 50 feet, it reaches terminal velocity, around 25 miles per hour. That's about the speed of a leisurely bike ride. Getting hit by a penny at that speed might sting or bruise, but it won't kill you. In a vacuum, with no air resistance, the story changes. A penny could hit over 200 miles per hour, which would be dangerous. But here on Earth, our thick atmosphere acts like a giant cushion. Interestingly, small objects with better aerodynamics, like a ballpoint pen, are far more dangerous when dropped from great heights, because air slows them less. So the killer penny is an urban legend, not a physics fact. But there is something from the sky that can be deadly, and it might hit the same place more than once. Number 7. Lightning never strikes the same place twice. You've probably heard the saying, lightning never strikes the same place twice. It sounds comforting, almost like nature's way of saying, you're safe now, But nature doesn't play by that rule. In reality, lightning often targets the same tall objects over and over. The Empire State Building in New York City? It's struck roughly 25 times every single year. That's an average of twice a month. And then there's Roy Sullivan, a U.S. park ranger who was struck by lightning 7 separate times and lived to tell the tale. He even earned the nickname the human lightning rod. After the 4th strike, his co-workers started keeping their distance during storms. Can you blame them? Lightning is unpredictable. It can even strike miles away from a storm's center, a phenomenon known as a bolt from the blue. These bolts can travel through clear skies and hit out of nowhere. If you're the tallest object in an open area, like a lone tree in a field, you're basically inviting trouble. So, yes, lightning not only can, but does strike the same place twice, and sometimes many more times than that. Number 6. Vikings wore horned helmets. When you picture a Viking, you probably imagine a fierce warrior wearing a helmet with giant horns. It's an image so popular, it's been in movies, cartoons, and even sports logos. But here's the twist. Vikings never wore horned helmets into battle. This myth started in the late 1800s when costume designers for Wagner's operas decided to add horns to Viking helmets for dramatic effect. They weren't trying to be historically accurate. They just wanted the characters to look more fearsome on stage. The real helmets archaeologists have found from the Viking age are practical. Simple metal domes, sometimes with a nose guard, but never with horns. Why? Because horns in battle are a bad idea. They give your enemy something to grab, and they can snag on tree branches or ship rigging during raids. It's true that some ancient helmets with horns have been discovered in Denmark, but they're from over 3,000 years before the Viking era. They weren't for fighting, they were ceremonial, like crowns. The 19th century opera designers probably saw these artifacts and thought, perfect, let's give the Vikings horns. And just like that, a costume choice turned into one of history's most enduring fashion lies. Number 5. Shaving makes hair grow back thicker and darker. Many people believe that shaving changes your hair's texture and color. The logic seems simple. Shave it off, and it grows back rougher, thicker, and darker. But that's just an illusion. When you shave, you're cutting each hair straight across, giving it a blunt, flat tip, like slicing a tree trunk with a saw. That blunt edge feels coarser than the naturally tapered tip of uncut hair, especially when it first grows back. But the hair itself hasn't changed. It's the same thickness and color it was before. Multiple studies going back decades confirm that shaving has zero effect on how hair grows. Your hair's thickness, color, and growth rate are all determined by genetics, not by your razor. If shaving really caused hair to grow thicker, we would have solved baldness decades ago. Every balding man would be shaving daily to grow it back. Even billionaires like Jeff Bezos, who could afford the most expensive razors in the world, are still bald. The thicker hair myth sticks around because the stubble feels different, but it's the same old hair, just with a blunt end. Number 4, wait 30 minutes after eating before swimming. This is one of the most common childhood warnings. Don't swim right after eating. You'll get cramps and drown. Even lifeguards used to enforce it. But the science doesn't back it up. There's no recorded case of anyone drowning because they swam too soon after a meal. The theory was that after eating, blood is directed to your stomach for digestion, leaving your arms and legs short on supply, which could cause cramps. But your body is perfectly capable of handling both digestion and moderate exercise at the same time. Sure, if you eat a massive meal and immediately dive into intense swimming, you might feel a bit sluggish or get a mild cramp, just like you might if you went for a sprint right after lunch. But it's not dangerous. In fact, competitive swimmers often snack during training sessions and jump right back in the pool. So unless you've just polished off an entire deep dish pizza, you're fine to swim whenever you want. Number 3. You lose 50% of your body heat through your head. Your mom probably told you, put on a hat, or you'll lose half your body heat. But this is another exaggerated claim. The myth traces back to an old U.S. Army survival manual that claimed 40 to 45% of body heat escapes through the head. But in those tests, the subjects were dressed in full winter gear with only their heads exposed. Of course, most heat escaped from their heads. It was the only uncovered area. In reality, your head makes up about 10% of your body's surface area, so it can only lose about 10% of your heat. Heat loss depends on how much skin is exposed, not which body part it is. Your head might feel colder because it has a lot of blood vessels near the surface, but uncovered arms or legs will lose heat at a similar rate. The only exception is for babies and small children, whose heads are proportionally larger, so they do lose more heat from that area. For adults, though, bare arms can be just as chilly as a bare head. Number 2. Goldfish have a 3-second memory. Poor goldfish. They've been the butt of short attention span jokes for years. But the truth is, goldfish are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. Scientists have put goldfish through maze experiments, and not only can they solve the maze, but they also remember the correct route months later. They can even recognize human faces. Imagine being a goldfish swimming in your bowl and thinking, "Oh, look, Dave's back with the food." Goldfish can learn tricks, too. Trainers have taught them to swim through hoops, push tiny soccer balls, and even distinguish between different pieces of music. With a brain smaller than a pea, they still manage impressive feats of memory and learning. Some researchers believe studying goldfish could help us understand human memory better. So no, goldfish are not forgetful little creatures living in an endless loop. They remember, and sometimes they remember you. Number 1. Swallowed gum stays in your stomach for 7 years. This is one of the most famous childhood warnings. The story goes, if you swallow gum, it'll stay in your stomach for 7 years. But science says otherwise. Gum base is made of synthetic resins that the body can't digest, but that doesn't mean it stays stuck inside you. Your digestive system is like a conveyor belt, constantly moving food and waste along. Gum travels through your stomach and intestines just like any other indigestible food, such as corn kernels, and leaves your body within 1 to 2 days. The 7 years warning was likely invented to stop kids from swallowing gum too often. While swallowing the occasional piece is harmless, swallowing large amounts in a short time, especially in children, can cause a blockage called a bezoar, which sometimes requires medical removal. Humans have been chewing gum-like substances for thousands of years. Ancient Greeks chewed tree resin, and the Maya chewed chicle. None of them suffered from a 7-year gum buildup. So no, gum won't stick around inside you for years, but it will stick to sidewalks for what feels like forever. If you learned even one thing today that made you rethink what you thought you knew, hit that subscribe button and join me for more myth-busting adventures. The truth is always more fascinating than fiction. See you in the next video.